perhaps you could talk a little about the technique that you're using here.
Okay. Most of the work I start with something, one thing, whatever it is I know that the work's going to be about, and the other pieces just follow each other, follow it. So in this one, I knew that I needed this shape, and that was all I knew, and then I figured that I knew it was a body, and it just kept going, and I started to realize what I was making the work about as I started to create it. So I have a bit of an idea of a feeling that I'm trying to create, and then the work evolves from that. And some of them are much quicker than others. This one probably took an hour to do, but the end one might have taken about 2 weeks. So you put pieces in and then they come out again because they don't always work. So
let's move down to these ones. Just come in here. So with this series, you've chosen to add some text to the work,
right.
Where in your other drawings there's no text at all. So what is the advantage in adding the text to the piece?
I was trying to make some work that had layers of meaning. So and I wanted it to be, I call this series life diagrams. So they're diagrams about things in your life that you can't find any advice on from a book or any kind of magazine or something. And so I used the text as a way to say the first level of how you would get the work. So it would be immediately accessible. And then I think that if you're looking at it enough, it starts to have another layer of meaning, or a third. So for this one, for example, you might meet somebody who talks a lot, but there's really no content to the words, and you're trying to figure out what are they saying through body language, or sometimes through what they're not saying. So there's about 15 in this series of things that provide you advice on how to do things. And sometimes they look silly, but I'm hoping that underneath there's another level of awareness about what they're about.
So I started with this first image, which is a religious theme, and that continued through the four other collages that I have here. They were biblical stories that I had been brought up with. I wanted to create a narrative within the collage, and it was a story that people could understand, and I could just update using the materials that I use. So it led to a series of biblical stories or on a religious theme, and I was happy with the way the stories developed. It wasn't, I hadn't set out to do a religious story at first, but that's, once I started on the religious theme, it seemed a natural progression, a way of using a narrative and yet changing the story, updating it. Can you talk to us a little about the technique you use to create your pieces?
Okay, so there's many layers in here. There's several paintings, 6, 7, 8, sometimes a dozen paintings underneath. And part of those paintings you can see, and lots of them you can't see. There's a lot of elements in here. There's corrugated cardboard, there's thread, there's a newspaper article, there's an interview about love. And what do we got here? They take so long that sometimes I can't remember. This is part of a map.
Do you start with the painting first, or do you start with collage elements, or is it just...
They go hand in hand a little bit, and then it comes and goes, comes and goes. I take it away, I bring it up. I take it away, I bring it up. It's ongoing, and it's some of it's very deliberate, and some of it's very free-form. It's a mix.
This has some elements of almost like a map of some sort. Is that anything to do with this?
You're right, it's inspired by cartography, but the cartography, the landmarks, the little parts on it, refer to time and to events in people's lives. It's not just my life, it's universal. So the past, the present, the future, they're all in here.
Okay.
Here with Brad Pasutti at the opening at the Martin Batchelor Gallery at a group show. And Brad has a selection of his acrylic work. And is it acrylic on paper, Brad? Yeah? And what caught my eye about this work, I asked Brad earlier if there was a narrative to this work. And you were telling me something very interesting of some of the characters that are in a lot of the pieces. What are the characters that you're collecting?
These are taken from Hieronymus Bosch, his Garden of Earthly Delights. And I've got a whole bunch of these little figures that are made in the Netherlands. So they become like the little characters in my paintings. Well, in a lot of the paintings you'll see.
And within each painting, is there a story here? Is there a narrative? Or are you working more architecturally, trying to create juxtapositions? Or is there an actual, are you trying to portray something else?
That's a good question. Well, sometimes there's a bit of a narrative. I juxtapose ideas, and I like to play them off against each other. And other times it's just sort of like stream of consciousness.
Oh, really? That's fabulous. And so there's a lot of architecture in the work. Where are you situated in these paintings? Are you in your house, or are you in different buildings? Are they real? Are they imaginary?
Most of it is my house. A lot of it would be in the house. And some of it's other places I've been, but mostly the house. And why they're very architectural is composition and structure is important to me, and also I just love to wander around in spaces.
Do you wander around and look in your house and go, oh, that would be a great place to paint, and you start painting?
It catches my eye, or when I'm working on something I think, oh yeah, that would be, I like to change the angle that I'm doing it at.
Now, I could see a lot of your old work in these paintings too, from the pastels, but at the same time they're very different. Can you tell me a little bit about that transition from your pastels to your paintings? Like the choices. I understood that you didn't want to do pastels anymore. So even though I can see your pastel work in here, I was wondering what the transition was when you made that decision not to do pastels anymore and you're doing the paintings.
For a long time I didn't want to do pastel anymore, but there was a lot of pressure from the galleries. And I tried painting. I wasn't very good at it because I was trying to do the painting the same way as I was doing the pastel, which is actually the opposite in a lot of the process. So for a while I just started doing ink drawings and then made the transition into painting slowly.
Okay. Now, when we look at this particular painting, is there a narrative going on in here? Is there a story that maybe you could tell us about? Because I'm sure a lot of people look at these paintings and they really get zeroed in and wonder what's happening. Can you tell us what's happening?
We have less of a narrative than some of the other ones because I just started someplace and it's just where my mind wanders, and then also, of course, I'll go in, and then because I'm going in structurally, I have to come out again. And
okay.
It's kind of.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's great. Thanks so much, Brad.